What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Cult of Recreationalism podcast. I'm here today with Evan Slaughter, aka at Fit to Serve One. Evan, thanks for joining us today.
Man, Nate, glad to be here, dude.
Yeah. So I wrote up a little intro and did a little bit of internet digging. So tell me if I got it right or if there's just lies out there.
Okay.
All right. Especially if you're audio listeners, you can't see. Evan has a mustache that rivals Ron Swanson's. He is a pickleballer. It's clean. It's looking good today. He is a pickleballer. He is a fitnesser. He has made a career as of recent making fun of pickleballers and and fitnessers in a good way. He's a veteran. He is self-employed, ladies. And if you haven't seen any of his videos online, your friends have, or you've sent them to your friends with the caption, "This is you," or "This is us." They're all good. If you're in the fitness or pickleball space, you've probably seen stuff that Evan's made. So yeah, man, thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time. So
yeah, man, glad to be here. Thanks for asking me. Yeah, it's funny how many people will did it, like, ever since this kind of took off for me, I'll get like friends that I haven't talked to in a long time or whatever that'll say, "Dude, is this you? Someone just sent me your video." And it's like, I know that guy. Or my brother's even gotten some videos sent to him. He's like, "That's my brother." Like, how weird would that be to be on that side of it and be like, "Dude, you showed me a video of it," and then meet the guy's like, "That's my brother." You know, that just blows my mind, dude. The internet's a crazy place.
It's funny. Yeah, so like some of the Bub stuff, we've like made some like pre-roll ads for YouTube and all that kind of stuff. And some of it's me talking. And I was showing somebody a video on my TV and it popped up. It was in there. Like, what are we looking at? And I was like, sorry, skip. Wait the 5 seconds. Gotta hit skip.
Nice.
So, yeah. Well, cool. Well, yeah, Evan, like, give me a little background. Like, how did you get into doing what you're doing? Like, when you grew up, did you want to be an internet content creator or what? How did you get here?
Gosh, when I grew up, the internet wasn't a thing yet. So could not have chosen this as a job as a kid. I don't know, man. I've always been into comedy. You know, that's kind of my thing on here. Like, I always lead with comedy. It's, you know, I've done that my whole life, whether it's just making new friends or in any kind of social setting. My go-to is comedy. So I'm very natural with trying to make people laugh and having fun with it and laughing at myself a lot. So I definitely knew I wanted to, or I could feel like I wanted to do something entertainment. You know, I liked being the center of attention a lot as a kid, you know, real smart aleck, you know, growing up, had a real smart mouth, one getting in trouble in school, that kind of stuff. And so I think I knew, or I could, you know, I don't know that I wanted to do it to this extent, but I definitely liked the entertainment side of things. So I think that's kind of where, when I got tired of office life and regular 9 to 5 stuff and just said, I'm not doing this anymore, it was like, all right, this feels, when I started making people laugh and having success on the internet, I was like, this is the first time I have a job where I actually enjoy it and it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. And I know I talked to you a little bit when we met in Tennessee. What previous jobs did you have before this?
Wow, man.
You a bunch?
I've done it all, brother. No, you know, I went to college, was studying exercise science in college, and did about 3 years worth of college, and I ended up getting a job as a personal trainer and managing a gym that a friend of mine owned in Birmingham, Alabama, where I'm from. And so the reason I quit college is I was like, I just was doing what I was planning to do with a degree anyways at that time, which was something with fitness. And I just didn't like school, but you know, shortly after that, I ended up deciding to join the Army and went into the Army, was in the infantry in the Army, went to airborne school. While I was there, was in a long range surveillance unit, deployed to Afghanistan, all that kind of good stuff. And then getting out of that in 2014, moved back to Birmingham, where I got into multifamily real estate. I was managing some apartment complexes and helping with renovations and stuff. A friend of mine got me into that, and it was a good job, but it was just, I wasn't, you know, it wasn't fulfilling. Like, I didn't feel like I was living out my purpose by any means in that, and ended up switching again to operations manager of a plumbing company, that was based in Alabama and was even more miserable, right? So
Yep.
finally, I was also getting sober at the time off opiates and just kind of going through a weird time in my life. And so when I finally got sober, got out of all that job and stuff, I was like, I'm going to do what I love. I'm no more like beating my head against the wall at an office job and being miserable just to earn a decent paycheck. I'm gonna actually pursue what makes me happy. And so started messing around on TikTok and Instagram and being deliberate about my comedy, and it just took off from there.
Yeah. I think it's really cool what you do with your comedy too. Like it's a comedy, like you can tell it's out of love. Like you're not just making fun of pickleballers. You can tell that you play pickleball and these are
Yeah,
just like the crazy things that you guys say to each other and you pick up on that.
for sure. Yeah, if you can't laugh at yourself and what you enjoy, then I just don't see how you go through life because even things that I'm passionate about, fitness and pickleball and all that stuff. Is every side has a humor to it, right? So, or at least in my mind, it does. So I enjoy poking fun at the light-hearted side of those things.
Mm. And so like pickleball, obviously it's like fastest growing sport in America. When did you get into pickleball? Or were you an early adopter? Is this a recent thing?
I would say that I'm not late, but middle into it. I mean, old school pickleballers will say I'm way late, but I got into it in 2021, and I actually learned pickleball while in rehab, getting sober off opiates. And they had a little rinky-dink, pickleball court there, and that was one of the things that we could do in between, our group sessions stuff. And first time I was introduced to it and loved it, and was playing it so much there, and then got out and continued to play it, and that's when it kind of incorporated into my comedy videos.
Nice. I'm super late into it, but I love it and it's fun. And it's been actually really cool. So my parents live in a different city, but when they come visit, my mom has gotten really into it
Yeah.
and she's like kind of gotten my dad into it. But it's like I never thought I'd be playing a sport with my mom who's in her mid 60s and she's good.
And
So like
they're good.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's funny. What sports did you play growing up? If you wanted to become a trainer, like I'm assuming you were athletic growing up.
Yeah. I mean, loved baseball, played a bunch of baseball. I wrestled 1 year. I did 1 year of football. I kind of quit sports in high school just because I became disinterested. I went to a pretty big high school in Alabama, Hoover High School. We had a really big football program, really big in sports, and it just wasn't fun for me anymore at that level. I was too interested in partying and goofing off and hanging with my buddies. I also rode a lot of motorcycles and dirt bikes, so I was doing that a lot. I liked my free time.
Mhm.
And so, but baseball, a little bit of football, a little bit of wrestling.
Cool. What I had so and then obviously from there when did you so and I asked you a little bit about this at camp where we met, but like what actually prompted the switch from I don't was it the plumbing job that you were at to full-time creator? And like how when were you comfortable or were you comfortable making that jump?
Yeah, it's like I was saying, man, it was a weird time in my life. I was, getting sober off opiates. So I had an issue with opiates just kind of, in my early 20s. And we've got addiction, issues in my family a little bit with my dad, who's now sober. So it kind of runs in the family some. But the only thing for me that ever was a struggle were opiates. And so I'd struggled a little bit early 20s, and then joined the military, was in the military doing well, and then injured in Afghanistan. And when I got injured in Afghanistan, well, guess what followed? Were prescription pain pills. And so by the time I got out of the military, I carried with me a pretty bad opiate addiction. And so I fought, getting sober and going back to it and trying to get sober and going back to it. And so then finally going to a 3-month rehab program, middle of 2021 is where I decided, I was able to finally kick it and move on. And so during that time, it was like I was so miserable in those jobs that I was doing just because I was not happy. I mean, I had come from being in the Army and the infantry, very high speed unit, deployed to Afghanistan, all this stuff, to like an office job setting. And it was miserable. So fortunately for me, though, I had owned a home and was able to sell it. It was in 2022. Real estate market's doing great, especially for selling homes at that time. So had no problem selling the house and was able to take that money, pay off any debt I had, get back on my feet. And I had a little bit of time from the sale of that house where it's like, all right, I don't have to just go find a job right now. I've got enough money to pursue something else. And so simultaneously, it was like, I just enjoy doing comedy stuff, man. It wasn't with the intention of it becoming something that I would monetize at the time. It was just something I enjoyed doing. And then when it started to have success and I started doing stuff around pickleball and CrossFit and all the things that I was getting interested in, because I gained a bunch of weight after getting sober off opiates, I found comfort in food. And so I'd gained this weight and now I'm trying to lose weight again. I just started doing comedy stuff around that. And it was from that where the companies started reaching out, wanting me to work with them, market this, do this pickleball paddle, do this CrossFit stuff. And that's when I learned about, how to really monetize your social media stuff.
Yeah. So a lot of people use social media to unwind. What do you do? Do you just, are you on Instagram and TikTok late into the night, or like, do you read or you game, or what do you do to unwind?
That's a good question, because I used to use social media to unwind, and now it's very much a job for me. So it's like when I look at content now, especially watch other content, just scroll through Instagram, scroll through TikTok, I'm always watching it like, ooh, maybe I should do a version, like maybe I could take this concept and spin it and it just is so stressful and it feels like work, I mean, not stressful in a bad way. It's just like, I can't turn that off, or I can just, it's hard to turn it off and just enjoy social media content. So I definitely try to find other things. I've got some shows I like to watch at night, comedy stuff. But really just being active again, going out and playing pickleball, because I make so much pickleball content. Sometimes I don't get to play as much as you would think. So like getting just to go play pickleball, or just going to work out, or going on a walk around where I live, and all those things, getting outside is huge. Being on my phone, making content, I have to take a break from that. I have to get outside and unplug. So that's probably the best way I know how to just unwind, is just go outside,
Yeah. I think more people needed to hear that. Yeah, it's funny. I can't remember who said it, but they're like, if you love what you do, you you'll never work a day. He's like, no, that's a lie. Like, if you love what you do, you're always kind of working. Like you're looking for inspiration here. Like,
I love that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So cool. I just had like some fun. Honestly, so for questions, are you on dating apps?
Never been on a dating app, dude. That's one thing where I don't knock them. But all my most of my friends are, whatever. I just haven't ever done it.
Good for you. But like the one I did actually, I hate them. It sucked. I'd rather meet someone in person. It's just hard when you're in your mid-30s to like.
And plus, everybody they use the internet for everything now, right? It's like it's the way you do things now.
But I did go through and I was like, what are like for interviews and stuff? Some of them have like prompts where it's like you put like 2 truths and a lie about yourself. So I went through and like stole some of those, and so we can get to know Evan a little bit better.
Yeah, let's do it.
So Evan the person, and not Evan the fitness influencer.
Right.
So first, what did your parents, or when you were growing up, if you're getting punished, how did your parents punish you growing up?
I was spanked, brother.
Yeah.
I'm from that spanked generation and proud of it. The grounding didn't work, very well. I mean, sometimes we get grounded, have things taken away. You can't ride your dirt bike, can't, do this, but it was always spanked until I was too old to spank, right?
Yeah. I was in there too, and I remember there was a certain time, like my dad spanked me, and I turned around, like, that didn't hurt.
I was the same way, dude. That's when they knew, like, can't spank them anymore.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah. It turned into, like, as I got older, my parents, they made me do push-ups. And it was like stupid little things of like, I was always like good at math. And then at one point I was just missing these really easy questions. And it was like a family friend was my sixth grade teacher. And so they're like, and I think she told him, she's like, hey, he's just not checking his work. And so anyways, my dad, like, he sits me down. He's like, so here's what's going to happen. You're going to bring your math homework home and I'm going to check it. I'm going to tell you how many you got wrong. You owe me 10 push-ups for every problem you get wrong. And then we're going to repeat that process until he's like, I'm not going to tell you what the answer is. But it's like in sixth grade, I was doing like 80 push-ups at night. Like,
Yeah.
just something stupid.
That's great.
Yeah. So, what would you say is your greatest strength?
Ooh, my greatest strength, I would say, is to find humor in places where you know, in anything. Find humor in anything. I mean, I look at it as a strength for sure. For example, just like being deployed and being with guys in the military and you're overseas and you're in a combat zone and then being able to laugh and still find humor and bring humor to the group. And, you know, I would say that's probably my best strength.
I'd say mine's my calves.
Calves too now.
I said you got some big calves.
Calves. Or also not giving up. You know, I'm pretty resilient. When it comes to things, overcome a lot and not giving up. So it's between those two, I guess.
Yeah. No, those are good ones. What would you say is your biggest weakness then?
God,
It's turned into a job interview.
finding a weakness, you know, no,
Yeah.
my biggest weakness, gosh, is I would say that anxiety. Anxiety is something I've always struggled with. My mom's, you know, can have pretty high anxiety, so I think I get it from her. I have to not worry so much, right? Like I used to worry about everything; it would drive me crazy, dude. And I think that, you know, as I'm matured and as I've just kind of learned some things and experienced different things, the anxiety gets better. But it's definitely something I have to stay on top of and be aware of and know, like, hey, it's okay. Like I was dealing with a situation this week where it was tough. I was doing this deal with a group and I was really excited about it. And then it turns out that I wasn't going to be able to do the deal because it was a conflict with another group that I'm already with, you know? And I didn't realize that. And it was just like the anxiety I had over just having to have that conversation drove me crazy until I was like, you know what? The only thing I can do here is just be upfront and honest about this,
Yeah.
you know, and go to them and say, hey, I messed up here. You know, I shouldn't have committed to this yet without doing a little bit more research, blah, blah, blah. And I did that. And guess what? It turned out fine. Right. And so for like 4 days when knew I had to do this, I'm just sitting there sweating it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I let anxiety bring me down way too much.
What do you do to like combat that? Like for me,
Lots of, no, I was kidding.
but like for me, big conversations like that are like, I hate them. And I'll do the thing where like I lay in bed, like I know in the morning I have to have a tough conversation with someone, whatever it is. And I'll just like stare at the ceiling and then someone's like, just write it down so it gets out of your head. Cause like, you know how it is. Like if it's therapy or whatever, you talk to somebody and you just, it just felt good to like get that off my chest.
Yeah.
And I found that writing it down actually worked for me. So
that's a great suggestion. You know, what I have started to do, and I don't know if this is a solution or just something I've started doing, but like I used to rely on, like in that situation where I'm feeling anxious about something, I would rely on someone else to make me not feel anxious about it. And by what I mean by that is like I'd go to someone with the problem and hopefully hear from them like, man, don't worry about that. You know, this is blah, 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 and hear what I wanted them to tell me.
Mhm.
But then I found out from doing that, I've taken the problem to other people before, and then they're more anxious about it than I am, and it only makes things way worse, you know? And it's like, you're frustrating me, you know? Like, this isn't what I needed you to tell me to hear. And so what I've learned from that is I got to stop relying on that. Like, you be the one, to handle this. This is your deal. You know, going to someone else is just going to make this worse about it. Just handle it. Like, just be honest, right? Lead with honesty and be honest about it. And the outcome is the outcome, you know?
Yeah. Who is your support? Like, not to, you don't want to like spread anxiety onto someone like that, but like, is it a family member? Is it a friend? Like, do you have a, who do you go to for stuff like that?
My manager, Lisa, she's great. But I found out too that especially in a situation like this where she's involved, and it's like I had to tell her, like, guess what? We can't do this, you know, and then she gets just as anxious about it as I am because she's directly involved in it. You know, that's kind of the situation I was referencing there. But she's great, man. Like just a life coach, and just helps me talk through things and have someone I can go to and say, hey, this is, you know, just a support system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What, that's cool. That's, it's weird. Like, I feel like people have gotten more open about talking about anxiety and things that make them anxious over the last, like, really since COVID.
Yeah. We come from a generation where that's not normal, right? Like our
Mhm.
parents, I know my parents were that way. It's just like if there was a problem, you don't talk about it. You know, it's like that's the worst solution, you know, like let's talk about it. Let's get it out there. And I'm glad that we're headed that direction and where we're at now, because it's definitely something that needs to be normalized, like in a healthy way. Like if you got an issue, you know, talk about it with somebody.
Mhm. When you were in the military, was because like obviously this is before all of that. Like, did you have any issues with that? Like, just you have to be, you're in the military, you've got to be rough and tough. Like, did you have to deal with anything like that there?
Yeah, for sure, man. It's you know, the
And sorry if I'm
military
like dragging
thing.
skeletons out of the closet.
No, it's great stuff. It's the military, you know, from it all, it's always changing, right? They're always dealing with different things. And there's also different branches in the military. There's different jobs within the military. So at the time that I was in the Army, I was in what's called a combat MOS, combat job. MOS is military occupation specialty. So like when you join, everybody gets an MOS. You could be truck driver, you could be a cook, you could be infantry like I was. Well, I was infantry. That's considered a combat MOS. And it was all male at the time. I think now you can, you know, join the infantry as a female. So it's all male at the time. So yeah, it's very much that environment, right? Like now the government does a good job about checking boxes, you know, like if you want to kill yourself, here's what you do. You know, it's like they've got a step for everything, and it's just all bullshit. I mean, it's all, you know, it's all, they're just making sure they do their job to, you know, but so yeah, there was definitely some of that. You know, one of the things that I had to deal with directly was when I came back from Afghanistan and was put on all these prescription pain pills that, you know, they were giving me, and I was abusing them because I have a problem with opiates. I had to get to a point where I had to be honest with my leadership about that, you know, and that was one of the scariest things I've ever done, because how do you approach, you know, your platoon sergeant that you deployed with and tell them that you have a problem, you know, with taking these pills, because they just can't comprehend that. Like, well, just stop. Like, stop being a baby about it. And, you know, it's like, so definitely went through some of that. But like we were just saying, I think it's changing, and hopefully even changing in environments like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not the just keep your feelings, push them down. They're going to go so deep down, and then one day it's just going to all explode out. Like, the feelings volcano.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Do you so when you were in the military, like I know you said you always like to find humor in any situations. Like, were you that guy in your platoon, or like? And I feel like just meeting you and hanging out with you for the little bit we did that week, it was like, man, there was always like something like,
Yeah.
oh, someone's walking weird, or like whatever it is, like just something like where we can all laugh at ourselves. Like, I feel like you were probably that guy.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely was. What's funny about the military is there's a lot of me in that, you know, especially in the infantry. There's a lot of guys like me. Some of the funniest people I've ever met in my life are military guys. I guess it's either just the sense of humor we all have together, you know. We all kind of get it. We're all kind of on the same page about the humor. I would say that, yeah, I was definitely one of the funny ones on our team. I was definitely one of the top ones making us laugh. But there's definitely another dude right there with me named Jesse, and he was just as funny or funnier in my mind, you know. So it's cool that you see that, and you get, you know, who you meet and who you interact with. But I'd definitely say I was definitely one of them. for sure, cracking everybody up.
Were you that class clown in high school and like junior high and all that too?
100%. Yeah, for sure. So much so that it was like a problem, right? Like I got in trouble a lot for, running my mouth or talking or making inappropriate jokes when I wasn't supposed to be making a joke or whatever. So for sure.
Mhm. Do you have like any funny stories about that? Like, oh, Evan's in the principal's office again and the parents are like, what? Like,
Yeah. So there was in middle school, I think I was 8th grade. What my math teacher was the mom of a lady named Heather Whitestone, and at the time, Heather Whitestone, she was Miss Alabama, I
okay.
think, and she was also hearing impaired. So she was like, it was really cool thing. She's just, hearing impaired, Miss Alabama. Her mom happens to be my math teacher. And no offense to her, but man, I did not like her mom. I mean, she must not like me either. She was just much older and just, kind of mean in my opinion. But there was this Halloween, it was right around Halloween time, and we're getting someone's throwing a Halloween party, and it's they've passed out these invitations to people in our group, and I'm looking at the invitation, right, in math class. Okay. Well, teacher comes over, takes the invitation up, and she's trying to be all funny, Oh, Halloween party. Is it a costume party? Do I have to? She's trying to embarrass me, right? Do I have to wear a costume? And I go, no. And she goes, why is that? I go, because you've already got one on. And basically, I was like referring to her being a witch, right?
Uh-huh.
And I went right to the principal's office. But little things like that, man, I just couldn't help it,
Uh-huh. I mean, I feel like if I was your parents, like, I mean, that's a good burn. Like,
Don't try to embarrass me, lady.
uh-huh.
Because she was straight trying to humiliate me for reading this invitation in class.
That's funny. Dude, some of the I've got the gym that I own. I've got a bunch of teachers that work out there. We're right by like a big school district. And he's actually one of my coaches, Ryan. He teaches elementary PE. And it's like every time he comes in, it's like, Ryan, how many times you get flipped off today? He's like, just twice. Like
I could not do that, man. That being a teacher of any sorts would drive me crazy, dude.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's my brother's a band teacher, and like I feel like if you're in band, you're like, okay, you're kind of like driven and stuff, but so I don't think he has a ton of troublemakers, but
yeah, my
I was
brother was a band member in high school, super successful now, typical, typical band member story.
Does he still play the clarinet?
You know what? He did play the clarinet in high school.
Oh, I was just
when you said that, I was like, do you know my brother, dude? He was third chair clarinet, and I don't know what chair he was, but he did play the clarinet. I don't think he's played it since high school. I think his wife would want him breaking out the clarinet.
She just comes home one day and he's just over there. It's like, I'm
casually, yeah,
I'm gonna pick it back up.
Yeah.
Did you play any instruments?
I play the acoustic guitar some now. I mean, I took some lessons growing up a little bit, kind of dabbled in and out of it. It was hard for me to stay into something, but I've since picked it back up and just kind of the same way with it now. I mean, I'm not great, but I can definitely like look at songs, look at major chords and play pretty simple stuff on it. So I enjoy doing that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I played piano as a kid. It was like my parents made me take lessons, and it's one of those I'm like, man, I really wish that like I had stuck with like when you're a kid, it's like you just wanted to do what your friends are like. No, I wanted to take karate. That's what all my friends are doing.
Right.
Over here learning the piano.
Yeah.
So, cool. Let's go back to Instagram stuff a little bit because like I know you create content on there. You work with companies. Have you ever bought anything from a targeted Instagram ad?
Ooh. Man, definitely yes. You know what I want right now? That's targeted Instagram ad, a Vesta board. Have you seen the Vesta boards?
No, I'm gonna look that up.
You're gonna look it up and you're gonna want one, but they're $3,500. And I couldn't manage to get one as an influencer. Like it was like, sometimes every now and then I'll see something I really want and Lisa, she'll reach out and just see if we can get one, and see if we can exchange some content for it, which a lot of time we can. And they just weren't taking. I think there's an application you can fill out now, where as an influencer you can try to get one, but they're just so popular now. But it's this cool, like at a train station. You looking at it now with the words, dude. You can like program it from your phone to say all these different things, and it flips. And puts the picture up there, puts the message you want to say, or is the coolest thing. And I was like, that would be something so cool to have in a video or whatever, where it's like you just have it flipping to say, these funny things while you're, incorporated to a video. But it's so cool. So that is definitely one it always pops up on my feed now because I talk about it all the time. It's always showing up, and I'm real close to like pulling the trigger, but $3,500 seems a little steep.
Yeah, no, I've seen these before. I didn't remember it was called this, but I remember seeing this like, that is so cool, and then immediately seeing the price tag like, nope.
I know, and you're like, damn, makes sense though that it would be that much, like something that cool. Of course, it's gonna be something I can't afford right now.
Yeah, I remember like when it was like early on when people like oh yeah, like our phones are always listening to us, and so we were talking about it, and my friend Taylor, I had seen him in the morning, and then I saw him again that evening, and he's like, yeah, like over my lunch break I'm gonna go get some new running boards like new like steps basically for my Forerunner. And I was like, oh cool. And then like an hour later I open up Instagram and I'm getting ads for running boards for a Forerunner. I don't own a Forerunner.
Yeah. Well, that's wild. Yeah, I used to think that was all BS too when people would say that, but now it's apparent, it's obvious that they're able to do that and like be that specific with ads it's crazy, dude.
Yeah. So yeah, now the only thing I can remember that I've bought from an Instagram ad was a slackline.
Okay. Do you slackline often?
Nope. I did when I got it
at the time.
I had a friend or one of my roommates in college had one, and like I got okay at it. He was really good at it. He studied abroad and they did it all the time wherever he was, and I got like pretty good at it, but like it's probably in that closet back there now or something, so around the garage. So yeah.
That's something I've never tried. Slacklining.
It wasn't as like, it's not easy, but it's like if you have like a decent level of balance, and I had a good teacher, I think, and he's like, you want to stare right where the line hits. If it's between two trees, you want to stare right where it meets the tree, because he's like, it's going to move like this, except for where it's touching the tree. Like that's not moving. So if you step there, that's your middle. So
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. When you're making skits, where do you find inspiration from? And I know we kind of talked about this a little bit, but like, is it in the moment you're like, oh, hold on, I got to go write that down? Or is it seeing other things other people have created and you're like, oh, I want to make my version of that?
So it's a little bit of everything, like I try to keep it as organic and as original as possible. I think about like just scenarios. Like, I guess that's just how I view the world through my lens, right? Like I put a comedic spin on basically everything that I look at it. And sometimes to where it's like I have to turn it off and be like, no, this is not a time to be funny, This is a time, and I have to kind of gauge it some. But I would definitely say it comes from a lot of different places. I'm very much a lot of people do things different ways, and I don't know if this is the right way to do it or not. This is how I've done it. But usually for like I have a content calendar, right, that I'm making content for all these different brands, all these different deliverables I've got to make for the month, right? And I really don't even think of the concept for the video that I've got to make until that day. So it's like, now sometimes I'll have, if a good idea comes up, I put it in the notes on my phone, or I write it down somewhere. I've got it saved, and I come back and revisit it and see if it is a good fit. But when it comes to actually making the video, I don't do it until the day of most of the time, because I feel like I'm more creative that way. It's like, I have to be in a mood to go out and do this. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of, like it's hard to be depressed or angry or upset or hungry or tired or whatever it is, and then go out and put this energy into a comedy skit. So I kind of create based off how I'm feeling that day. Now, watching social media sometimes definitely helps and gives inspo. You see a lot of cool trend stuff, and I've definitely done my version of trends, but I really like to be a trend setter a lot, and I've always been that way, man, whether it's with the clothes I wear or the style, I really try to do my own thing. I just like that. But it's always helpful to pull inspiration from other places. Someone told me, I forgot how this goes, but it was in reference to music. And I heard this from a really good musician one time. He's a friend of mine, really talented guy, really intelligent guy. And he was saying, and he's like, and this really pisses me off not me, but this is what he said. He said, this really pisses me off. He said, someone told me one time that there's no original song. And I was like, huh. And I thought about that for a second, and I'm probably misquoting this some, but what he means basically is like ever since music's been created or notes or since the man of time, right? We're all just taking our version of that note and the chords and how it's put into a song and remixing what's already been created, right? So I think of that sometimes with comedy and everything, and I think, well, I like that. That takes some of the pressure off because it's just my spin on comedy, right? And what's already being done. Now that comes out in a very organic and original way that hasn't maybe been done in that order before or done in that way before. But when it comes down to it, we're all just doing our version of what's already out there.
Yeah, that's I've heard like that's like the music specific version, but I've also heard like the idea of like original thoughts, like how hard it is to like yeah, like it's all inspired by something that you saw, even if you don't remember seeing it, it's in your subconscious,
right?
And so it's
frustrating sometimes, but there's truth to it, I think, for sure, right?
Yeah. But it's funny too.
Elon Musk, he might be the only exception.
Yeah. It's funny too because it like you talk about like, okay, so original thought, like in your pickleball video where you're like, back me up, Brenda. And it's like, that wasn't actually a funny thing. That was just someone said, back me up, Brenda. And you're like, if I say that in a funny way, or like just things like that,
it's just like, the couple that's yelling at each other on, they've been married forever and they're yelling at each other about, that's why a lot of people don't do sports with their significant other, right? It's just that whole idea of, and then like taking people's names, Donna, Beth, Cheryl, it's just funnier.
That's my mom's name. Cheryl. Yeah.
Nice.
It's funny. Do you call your parents mom or dad when you're out in public with them?
I go back and forth. So my parents' names are Harry and Janie. And so sometimes I'll do that until one day, like one of my mom's friends, she always heard me calling her Janie, or when I would talk about my dad, I'd call him Harry. And they just thought I was doing that because I had a bad relationship with them. And I was like, no, it's just, that's my version of dad. And, because my friends would call him that growing up and everything. And so I always just saw it as a term of endearment. So, but, now that they're older, I try to, let's say older, if they listen to this, my mom will kill me, but they're in their 60s, right? So I try to mom and dad a little bit more, but I've always seen it as a term of endearment whenever I call them Harry or Jane.
Yeah. I like, it's funny. I call them mom and dad all the time, but then if we're in a grocery store and I'm dad, she's like, my mom will send me to go get something, and like I'll like, oh wait, what? And like, hey Cheryl. Like, that's when I'll do it, because I realized at a young age, if I say mom, every mom turns and faces you in the middle of that.
That's right.
Oh, that's funny. Dang. Okay. This one is another question. Give me your thoughts on shirts.
Like,
where, like, a lot of people are not comfortable taking their shirt off, and you seem very comfortable taking your shirt off.
Yeah. Too comfortable, probably. Yeah, I don't know, man. It was a big thing for me, like, because I gained all this weight. Like, I'm currently down 70 pounds, I think, since October last year.
That's awesome, man. Congrats.
I appreciate it. And what's crazy about that is that for most of my life, I've definitely been in shape more than I've been out of shape, but it was just like a thing that happened when I got sober off opiates. It was just, I started finding comfort in food in an unhealthy way. Like I was making all this content. I put exercise and fitness on the back burner. I was focused on content. And then at night I would just eat, man. That was my thing. That was my cycle for a while. That, you know, I would eat, and I still drink alcohol as well. Never been a problem for me there. And so I would eat, and then some weekends I would drink, you know, whatever. And I'm just taking in all these calories, right? And not exercising because I was putting all this energy and focus into comedy. And so the whole, you know, I just decided at the same time when I started making, you know, pouring myself into social media, I'd done a lot of healing mentally from the opiate stuff and had gone through a divorce at the same time, just had a lot of healing to do. And that's when I decided I was going to look at life differently. And I had this new perspective on life. And one of the biggest things is I used to always just, like many of us do, struggle with confidence, you know, struggle with how people perceive me. Whether it's physically, or do they find me funny, or do they find me, you know, cool? Do they, you know, whatever it is, we all struggle with that in some kind of way. And I just kind of simultaneously, while I'm making this, while I'm gotten off the opiates and all this stuff, I'm making comedy things. I'm finally enjoying life and at a place where I'm mentally healthy for the first time in a long time, truly mentally healthy. Along with that came this renewed confidence where I just, and you know, I quit caring what other people thought of me. I quit caring focusing so much on how people perceived me and how they saw me. And it was so freeing for me to take my shirt off and not be your typical Instagram model and not be your you know, ripped abs. And people are so afraid of that. It's like, man, I don't care anymore what you think, you know. I like me for me. I like who I am. And so I just was taking it off, and I didn't, you know, doing a lot of videos with my shirt off. And that was kind of part of my deal for a little bit in some of the videos. I got, you know, so much so that when people would come up or say something and, hey, I love your content, whatever, they would say, I almost didn't recognize you with a shirt on, right? And so, but it was also cool because I was getting a bunch of messages from people that were saying, hey, man, I know this is comedy routine. I know this is blah, 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 but you're really helping me. You know, I struggle with confidence. I struggle going to the gym because I don't look a certain way. I struggle with doing this. I struggle with doing that. And just watching you and how you perceive things and take things and don't care what other people say about you and all that kind of stuff is really helping me. So when I was getting those messages, I was like, so there's a purpose to this. You know, this is helping people. I'm not going to back off from this just because, you know, I'm going to continue to pour into this kind of thing. And I did. And it was helping. What people don't realize is it was helping me too. Because I was in a place where I was trying to build my confidence back up. And like I said, it was so freeing. So it was like empowering, you know, to go out there and then have videos go viral. Like my most viral video, over 16 million views, was in a place where I was not in great shape. I was at that mark where I was about, maybe back then when I did it, maybe 60 pounds heavier than I am now. I think I wasn't at my heaviest there, but I was close to it. It's me pushing a lawnmower with my shirt off, you know, and like over 16 million views. So people see that, you know, it's been viewed a lot. And so, and I don't even think of it that way, right? I just did my thing, but it was cool. It was freeing. And so now it's almost like as I get back in shape, it's like I can't pull that off anymore. It's like I have to start wearing a shirt now because it's not going to be as funny. So I'm trying to find that line, but at the end of the day, man, I don't care, you know?
No, man, when I first saw it, I was like, this guy gets it. Like, fuck yes. Like, this guy, like, yeah. I was like, this is awesome. But okay, so you said it's like being mentally healthy, like, and then there's also clearly like being physically healthy. Does do you find there okay, let me take two steps back. You're talking about like being in a good place when you go to make a video. Do you go like work out earlier in the morning to like physically put yourself in a good spot, or do you do anything to like mentally put you in a good spot when you do that?
Man, that's an excellent question because that's something I think about a lot. And I know other creators that purposely make sure that they work out before they go create. And there's definitely something to that. Sometimes I get stuck because my focus is so much on, I want to make the, I got all this content to knock out, right? It's kind of like I look at it like work a little bit. I mean, I should look at it like work, but as I do more stuff with brands, it's like, yeah, I enjoy what I do. I love what I do, but sometimes there's some of it that's actual work that isn't as fun, right?
Mhm.
So that can be pretty stressful. And it's like I get so focused, laser focused in on getting that done for the day. If I have to go do a pickleball thing, I've got to go to a court during a time during the week when no one's going to be there because pickleball courts are slammed right now. So I got to go in the morning, or I got to go during a weekday, or I got to. But I always feel like I do create better if I have exercise first. Like, it gets my mind going, it gets my endorphins going. So one of the things that I've been trying to do a better job of is waking up earlier if I have to, just to make sure I go ahead and prioritize fitness, prioritize working out, and it makes it easier for me to go out and create. I don't have to think about like, well, crap, I still got to work out at the end of the day, or I get done with all this content stuff for the day and now I'm too tired to go work out, or so I think that's something that I've got to do a better job of prioritizing, because it definitely does help me to have exercised first.
Are you more creative in the morning or the evenings or middle of the day?
Golly. So, I would say mid-morning, 10 a.m. to noon. And then again, I can get creative late afternoon, 4 to 6, something like that. And that's when I kind of have to I think in the later part of the day is whenever I do a lot more of my, if I come up with an idea or I'm thinking of something, I do more writing then. I'll put more stuff in my phone and try to plan for things. Sometimes I like something so much that I got to go create it now, and I want to shoot it now because I know how I want it to look and I know how I want it to come out, and I want to do it now, right? But I think mid-morning, after I've woken up some, had coffee, done whatever, I feel pretty creative then. And then again, I get a little spark late afternoon where I feel that way again.
Yeah. When do you so that's when you like to be creative, or like when you naturally are creative. Do you have a time when you're naturally around 2 p.m. is when I'm like ready to go work out?
Yeah.
Do you have a time like that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, because usually I'm usually a mid-morning exercise guy. That's the problem, because I don't usually like working out real early, right? I like to take my time when I get up. I like to wake up, have coffee, mess around on my phone, whatever I got to do, get going a little bit. Sometimes it takes me a little too long to get going, I think. And then I feel like being creative, right? Because now the day's going on and it's like, all right, I got a little bit of time where I need to get this done. If I have to go to this park to shoot something, it's not going to be high traffic at time. I can go do it now. And that conflicts with when I like to work out. But I'm at a place now in life where working out is going to happen for me, right? Whereas this time last year or whatever, I would have put it off, and that's how I was gaining all that weight. But now, because I've lost all this weight again, and I'm feeling good physically, and I'm starting to, make some serious healthy changes, physical fitness is definitely it's going to happen. And it's just, did it happen when I want to in the mid-morning, or am I having to squeeze it in before the nighttime? So ideally like to do it mid-morning, but if I got to get in it, I still haven't worked out today. So I've got, this evening I'm going to have to run. I'm going to have to do something just so I get it in. Right. But ideally I'm trying to do it mid-morning.
Yeah. Do you have any fitness goals right now? Like anything you're working towards?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm down 70 pounds, and this is what's crazy, because I'm not a tall dude, right? I'm 5'5". Okay, a lot of people don't realize that, which blows my mind too, because I get that a lot too. Like, dang, you're shorter than I thought. And I was like, I get it. It's hard to tell how tall someone is on a video, but
People tell
I'm
you that?
standing in my kitchen next to my refrigerator. You should be able to put two and two together that that I'm barely seeing above the ice maker. No, yeah. So
You got a step stool to get in your freezer?
yeah. I'm on tippy toes, reaching the top shelf of my yeah. So I mean, when I was at my heaviest, I think I was 280, and that's
Okay.
a 5'5" frame. I mean, that's heavy, bro.
Mm.
Now I think I weighed in the other day at 213 and a half.
Hell yeah.
I'm trying to get to 180.
Uh-huh.
175, 180. So that would be my goal right now, is just to continue to drop weight till I'm like a healthy 175, 180.
Okay. It's so funny too, because like I own a gym and stuff, and the amount of people who they how do I say this? Like if it's someone who's a member of my gym and like, oh hey, my friend is interested in joining, and I talk to them, like I'll hop on the phone and they're like, yeah, I feel like I need to get in shape before I come in. And it's like, no, you
Yeah.
don't. Like that's the whole point of coming in. And it's like, and you don't like just start.
Just
But
start. And that was a big thing, because one of the reasons, like, I'm actually really grateful for the weight gain that I had, because it gave me a lot of perspective from where people who are overweight, how they feel. I mean, I was obese at 280, 155. That's obesity. Um, so I know what that feels like, and I know
Mhm.
the struggles that come along with that now, and I know how it makes you feel, how you have no energy, how you're embarrassed. You can be embarrassed easily about how you look. I mean, I am very comfortable in a gym environment, have been all my life, was in the Army infantry, went to Special Forces selection, did all these different things, right? But yet, when I gained all that weight, I was super timid about going to the gym. Um, so a lot of these little funny workout videos I was just doing in a park or a tennis court or wherever by myself, where no one was around, but at least I was out moving, right? So it's like, I understand, like, yes, build up the confidence and just say screw it, and get to a place where you're just like, I don't care about what other people think of me. I care about me, and I want to improve physically, so I'm going to go to the gym. But at the same time, I know how that feels big time, especially when I was that weight trying to get into CrossFit. I mean, dude, I could barely, the warm up was kicking my ass,
Yeah.
and it
Mhm.
was embarrassing. And it's,
Yeah.
because you're in CrossFit, especially, you're around all these super, super fit people, right? Most of the time. Now, go to a CrossFit gym, go to your local CrossFit gym, meet people. It's such a welcoming environment, such a welcoming group of people. That's why I love CrossFit. You're going to have people that are insanely in shape, and you're going to have people that aren't in shape at all. And everybody's, able to do something, and you're all doing fitness together, and it's a really helpful environment, and people genuinely care, and they genuinely want to help. But just taking that step to get into the gym um, takes a lot when you're bad out of shape. So it's like, I
Mm.
get it. I was in that boat, right? I was trying to figure it out, and I finally got to a place where it was like, I just cared more about improving physically than I did about what other people thought about me.
Yeah. Good for you, man. Yeah, I've mentioned this woman on my pod, or not on this podcast, a couple of times. Her name is Pat, who's a member of my gym. She's
Yeah.
78 years old. And it's so funny because people are like, I don't know if I can do this. And I'm like, she's 78 years old. You're 27. Like, you can do this. Like, so yeah. I guess, and really, like the last question I had for you is, and the name, your Instagram name, Fit to Serve One. What's the significance behind that, or how did you come up with that name?
So, funny story, I've had that username for a while. It was almost destiny. When I'd gotten out of the military and I'd moved back to Birmingham, and I was in that time of my life where I was getting sober and then couldn't stay sober, and then getting sober and then couldn't stay sober, I tried to do this free workout group, because I had this concept where it was like, at the time, all these gyms and stuff that were going on, this is 2014, personal training was very expensive, all these things. And people's excuse would be that they couldn't afford a trainer, or they couldn't afford to go to a gym, or they couldn't, and I get that, right? So I started this free workout group that would meet on Saturdays. And the purpose behind that at the time was, I called the workout group Fit to Serve, because in my mind, I was thinking we all need to be physically fit in order to go out and serve our community, or serve in some capacity, right? So it was focused on being physically fit so that you could serve.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, years go by, right? I struggle with my opiate stuff. I finally end up getting through that. And I've just always had, and it's Fit to Serve 1 because Fit to Serve was taken by someone else. So the 1's just an addition on the end. Fit to Serve, right? So I go and, fast forward to today, right? And I keep the Instagram name because my concept of what it means to be fit to serve changed. Okay. So I go to a place where I've gained all this weight, right? I'm 70 pounds more than I am now. I'm basically obese, but I'm serving people through my comedy and through the videos I'm making. So I'm being of service by providing humor to someone's day. And also the whole confidence thing with taking my shirt off, like I was being of service through that. So that showed me, that disproved my very first thought about it. Cause it was like, you don't have to be physically fit to serve, If you want to, I think we're all equipped. I think we all have purpose. I think we all are built in some way to be of service. And my example I always use is a school teacher example, right? People, you talk to most good school teachers, whatever, they love it. They love their job. They love educating the kids. They love being in that environment. They love, that's their purpose, right? Or that's part of their purpose. For me, I could never do that. It would be a struggle for me, right? But that's their way of serving. Whereas I like to take the comedy approach. I think I serve people through humor and comedy and making light of situations that, people don't always make light of, and all these, bringing some humor to the world. We're all in some way, owning a gym and being a fitness coach. That's a way of being of service. That's a way of living in your purpose, helping other people reach physical fitness. So that's where it came from, man. That's what it means for me now. And that's my answer when people ask that question now.
I like that, man. That's cool. So, well, also, I know we're kind of coming up on, I know you said you had about an hour and we're approaching that. So cool. This actually sounds like a pretty good place to wrap up. But if people want to, I know I just threw your Instagram name out there, but if people want to find you, or if you have anything coming up, like take a couple minutes, pimp your profile, like take some time. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So Instagram, usually if you search fit, FIT, the number 2, fit to serve, on Instagram, I'll come up. It is Fit to Serve 1, the number 1 on the end on Instagram. It's Fit to Serve on TikTok, and I've kind of got my YouTube thing going. But man, I've done just a lot of fun stuff. I'm located in Nashville now. We've got some cool events coming up there. About to do the Murph workout at HW Athletics in Nashville with Power Lift, like a protein water deal. They're raising money for U.S. vets. Got a pickleball event coming up with Spirited Hive in June. So if you check out my Instagram, I'll be plugging all of those events and would love to have whoever, show up and come out.
Cool. And I'll make sure to throw that in the description for this episode too, when it drops. So, well, cool. Awesome. I'm going to do my little sign off then, but Evan, thank you so much for coming on. This was great. So guys, as always, thank you for listening, and you can find the Cult of Recreationalism on all podcast services. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube or our social media. Just look up Bubs Naturals and you're going to find us. We're the one that pops up. And while you're there, leave a thumbs up, leave a 5-star review, whatever platform you're on. Any positive review helps. So, Evan, thanks again, man.
Thank you, brother.